Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. I have what I hope is a special treat for you guys today. This is the first of two games I played recently in the Adopt a Noob tournament hosted over on the Blitzboard channel, and my opener, I'm playing a Zero Core by the way, and the map was randomly rolled. My opener is going to be headed up and into Foxtrot, then hopefully India. That was the plan anyway, and we knew our opponents, Lateralus and Kuma, were using, I believe, a blue 4 Marines deck, and then something else I'm not quite sure. It might have even been another Eurocore deck for the opposing team. And so most of my stuff up here is not going to be traditional. I have a single Leopard 2A1, but no super heavy, because our guess was kind of that Kuma would be headed over to India and Lateralus probably headed over into Delta Alpha, and so, well, there's no real need for that heavy armor. In the meantime, we have a Krotal, we have an AMX-10 RC, and then I also have MintJellyMan's opener headed over there, as his main goal is to fight over Delta Alpha and make sure that we don't lose those sections of the map. That's our basic plan for winning. And also we had a second CV buy right off the bat on Fox, just so we could get a little bit of ticking war score in case things went south. Now, a huge investment on helicopters from Kuma and Lateralus. It is not technically a helo rush as defined in the rules, which I believe was 300 or so more points, 300 or more points worth of helicopters on one flank at one time. Actually, let's count that real quick, just because I think that's what, 240, 270. Well, that's close anyway. So F-14 Tomcat from Kuma circling in the back, and I think it was per person per side, and we'll see. So Tiger and an escort trying to go over here into the enemy Tiger and Hap, and that is going to be a problem as the escort takes the first couple of shots there, but the Tiger, manually targeted by the Red 4 helicopters, goes down, both of those helicopters going down, and unfortunately in so doing we lost vision for the Krotal to be able to shoot, because they were within range. We could have gotten maybe one, maybe two of those. Actually, it looks like we did get the cheap recon helo, which is, I mean, that's not really all that big of a consolation prize. And we can see Red 4 has already gotten into Delta. Commando Marine, two of them, from Kuma, headed up there. And seeing that huge push into Delta, I'm just going. So Commandos Para up here, Vabs, fighting with each other. Of course, the defending Vab will usually win, and that is what we saw here. My Commandos Para taking a bit of just fire out in the open. Bit of a misplay for me at that point, but I'm just trying to get everything going. And also, we're kind of panicking a little bit about the right-hand side. Bravo is yet to be capped. It should be in just a second here, which will allow us to call out some reinforcements. But until then, that was really scary. So the Cassiope, really good. Giant 30 primary weapon. And the Tiger Hap, I mean, yeah, down goes some KCT. So that was certainly a little bit worrisome. We've definitely taken the brunt of the casualties so far in this fight, which, yeah, I mean, it's Conquest. We are ticking at +2, but you need to have some amount of control of the ground in terms of points on the ground as well. So Krotal and Gepard A2 called out maybe a little bit heavy anti-air, but we really just wanted to solve our helicopter problem in this section. And Cassiope is headed right to our base, which is, you know, I mean, it's a tournament. It's not meant to be a friendly game. This is a competitive game, and you take what you can get with that. So a KWS call out from MintJellyMan going in. This guy has 1 point of strength left, and unfortunately, because of that little blip in vision, the KWS didn't gun run him. So the Cassiope is still alive. KWS is going to have to turn around. We are screening out the Tiger Hap on this side, but Lateralus has forces on the ground here. That is probably an AMX-10 RC already up and into Bravo. If he gets his main gun online, that's going to be really kind of bad for us. And I've yet to really get into India in full here to make up for it. So, I mean, we are trying for this. The KWS did get a nice kill on the Cassiope, and then these are just mostly reservists, a couple of Panzergrenadier in boxes that are going to be headed up and in. And I'm going to take the town, I'm going to take the forest. We're going to see what we can do. I mean, there's double Tomcat buys now, so that's 310 points in the air from Kuma. And the first one we saw earlier, but the second one looked like it was a reinforcement buy, which means that he's not buying more things to support in India. I don't really know why. I think, you know, having seen my presence there earlier, well, I would have assumed if I was him that that was coming next, but, you know, we'll see how it goes there. We are baiting out some ATGMs, so there was some protection in that section of town. It's just maybe a question of whether or not it was enough. I do also lose a 10 RC to the opposing 10 RC. This is blue v blue, and yeah, it was just, it's a tournament. We don't want anyone to have to play a faction that they don't want to play. So Martyr 2 is getting called out, Panzergrenadier 90 in those, and I just wanted the fire support. I wanted the good infantry. We're taking a little bit of fire here, but fortunately not quite enough to cause too many problems, and a nice response from Grape Jelly getting a kill with the AMX-13 FL-12. So I do just want to take a second here and do that standard YouTuber nonsense that I have to always ask for, even though I really kind of despise it, which is like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. These tournament games are a lot of fun, and I hope that they get more people involved in games, in the community, and just having a good time, and the more visibility videos like this get, the better it helps me spread that message. So, Vab's going up, Legion 90 going up here, and probably a little bit early to drop these guys off, but I didn't want them dying in the AMXs from ATGMs from that side town, and then the second group is staying on their wheels and going up a little bit too far then, so, you know, take what you can get, and just evaluate as time moves on. But we're getting nice fire in, we're getting some kills on reservists, we're getting up and into these sections of forest, and yeah, there's the ATGM that I didn't want to have hit me. If that had hit the side of the AMX 13, I probably would have lost an entire group of Legion. In the meantime, AMX 10 RC. Now, fun fact, these are amphibious, and we've already had one attempt with the Cassiope to get into Echo, so I figured, you know what, let's see where this guy can go, and let's just go for a swim, let's go across here, see what we can do when the rest of the zone is really kind of suffering. You can see I'm bringing up a Kratal, 2A1's coming up, more reservists, smokes up here, rolling 3, and I'm really just trying to take a little bit of the pressure off on the Alpha Delta side of the field, because while this has been going on, MintJellyMan has been fighting against a lot of forces from both players here. So he's taken a lot of losses, his Stute Troop in 95 dying against Rima, which, I mean, that's not their first fight, and their first fight went a lot better, but you can only go toe-to-toe with enemy shocks for so long before it just becomes a bit attritive. And this was something I thought was actually really nice. So Commandos Para and Legion 90, both really good units, and they're fending off my reservists just fine, but my reservists aren't fighting alone. I have 13 VTTs with M2 Brownings, I have a 1390 back here with that F3 main gun, and we're actually killing the Commandos Para faster than my reservists are dying. Which, I mean, think about the value on that. 20 points worth of Commandos Para, and this is why you turn off their tertiary. You don't want them spotted, you don't want them taking fire from that many units, and probably in that situation you want to move them back and farther into other town blocks where they're not going to be as directly targeted. Ooh, I actually missed this during the game. Do we get the cactus? Some damage on it, fair amounts, doesn't look like it, unfortunately able to retreat there, and yeah, I mean, this is just, it's another of the same engagement, right? So now we have 4 M2 Browning shooting in at a distance while reservists are just tanking the shots from the Legion 90's Mini-Me and FAMAS, which, yeah, that'll deal a lot of damage, but we're shaking up the Legion's morale, and meanwhile fending off an attempt from Kuma with that K1 to move back here. He probably remembered that I had Legion 90 up in this section of woods, and had it come a little closer, that would have been a dead K1. Virtually guarantee it with those 2 Eric's missiles. So, on this side, Martyr 2s, more Panzergren 90, we're still trying to clear out this section of forest, and the intention is, if we can attack into this town and into this section of forest on the right of Alpha, then we can countercap it, or force them out entirely. And keep in mind, we're still ticking out a +2. It's sort of a hope to deny them the advantage on the right side that we have on the left right now, so they can even it out if we fail to do a good offensive. Kratal nearly missing the Peace Pheasant, and would have been nice to get that kill there, especially because my Kratal is now out of ammunition. It's frankly my main problem with it, is why I think the ITO 90 is a lot better. It's basically a Kratal with twice as many missiles, and you'd be amazed how much that saves you in terms of having to get more resupply up and forward. It gives them a whole lot more, not operational range necessarily, but operational time. So there's another plane coming in. It looks like another Peace Pheasant 2 going after my Kratal, which made me very, very sad. 2 missiles away, there's the kill, and my Roland 3 unfortunately was still fast moving and misses the first shot. See if we can get the second one, and no. So 2 swings, 2 misses there. Not really super thrilled with that, because the Roland 3, of course, does have pretty good stats. 10 RC getting around the back of Hotel is very nice, and the reservists with their support are clearing out Milans in the sections of town over on the left. So India is falling, and with it, I'm pulling out some command infantry. We're going to cap this zone and sort of make up for the fact that they've capped Alpha. Now, I don't quite understand this. I think it might have just been an intimidation move, because there's no reason... Oh, there it goes. Okay, so they had one out to both Charlie and Alpha getting capped. Now they're ticking on us +2, which will get evened out once we take the zone on the left, but if they can then cap Delta, they end up with a +1, and with 30 minutes left, they can overcome a 200-point lead. It's not exactly all that we were hoping for in this game. So, in response, calling out a whole bunch of reservists and a 2A1 to back up that push. Of course, the only super heavies are going to be coming from Lateralus, not from Kuma, because Kuma's deck just doesn't have it in there. I mean, you just don't get those in Marines decks. And so, the 2A1 was a bit more of a flexible response, I think, for a couple fewer points that hopefully won't run into a big old nasty super heavy. In the meantime, 10RC gets up and through and into Echo. I actually thought they spotted him back here. Not really sure what happened there. There's no kills back there or anything, and I'm just threading my way through. I'd hoped, you know, if I stay in the woods here, we can avoid detection, and then I might be able to see something else, but it actually runs right into a Humvee. There goes the CV, hotel's out. That means no air or land reinforcements for a little while, and the air is actually a big thing, right? You're playing against a Marines deck that's going to be air heavy, and they don't have an air reinforcement lane until they get this recap. So we could have probably exploited that with some bombers and things without any sort of ASF response, but I think it was more important to just get more points on the ground. So that's what we're doing right now. Panzergren unfortunately taken out by Panthers, and the Gepard A2 just a bit too far back to get some revenge for that until a little bit too late. I mean, yeah, it's a nice kill. Down go the Panthers, and I think it was a bit more value for us than for them, but I'm always sad to see my Panzergren 90 get targeted and killed like that. I mean, it does also give us information, and specifically the information that they had recon in this section of town. That's the only thing that could be close enough to spot infantry in forests, and I only wish I had a couple more reservists or something or similar in there to deal with it. So AMX 10 on this side is going to be overwhelmed, just sheer numbers, and the Panthers can get through the armor on the RC. It's not very heavy armor. I think it's what, 2 frontal, 3 frontal armor, something like that. Rocket pods with that much HE can get the work done, particularly if they get a side shot as well. So AMX 13 VTTs, and I'm dropping off the reservists really close up, in part because, as was pointed out to me when I did this improperly the other day, they have really crap speed, 15 speed, and that's when they're calm and, you know, not panicked, not stunned and all of that. And if they get shot, they just sort of stop moving, even if you really want them to. So my hope is to get them as close as I could to the woods and then push up behind them. So the Martyr 2 is coming up, the 2A1 coming up, 1390s up here for recon, as well as fire support against infantry. And you can see we're making a bit of a difference here. Getting in through the Commandos Para, getting in through whatever was holding that section of town is now very, very unhappy. And this is the toehold that we were hoping to get. Unfortunately, there's the 2A5. So, you know, I probably should have expected it. The 2A1 buy, assuming I wouldn't run into one, was maybe a little bit suspect, but it also used more points. Well, it used all the points I had at the time and got me reservists out in front. So if I had just the 2A5 and no reservists, we wouldn't be able to push in here. His reservists and cheap vehicles would be able to screen out for his 2A5, and I'd probably lose that engagement. So you can see my Martyr 2's scooting around, trying to stay out of line of sight from that big boy, and my Leopard 2A1 getting back into the woods, while, I mean, there's a 15 OCU from Grape Jelly trying to just fend that off a little bit, but unfortunately no contact there, at least not until the 2A5 got up and into the woods. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, this is something where India is now ours. I have a Roland 3, I'm microing the, actually 2 Roland 3s, microing the missiles on those radar AA pieces. I have a whole bunch of Legions, some AMX 13s, and a Leopard 2A1 to boot, as well as some Milan teams moving up and forward, Kurtal's backing. This is not going to fall without a fight. So that +2 is ours. Now the only challenge that we really have to focus on is making more progress into Alpha, and this was a bit of a mistake. So Martyr 2 is leading the way. It's an expensive unit to lose against Panzergren 90. The 1390s should have been leading there and weren't, and you can see once they do, that's a lot more effective. There's a 2A5, and I was hoping to get a side shot here, but running into the Panzergren 90 alerted him, and yeah, this is going to end really poorly. Well, I don't know, I mean, we'll shoot first. Yep, we shot first. I think that meant that the 2A5 is down to 1, but we didn't get the kill there. Tiger Hap doing some very nice supporting work for the Red 14. Over on this side, we have reservists versus reservists, which actually was kind of hilarious, and I think that fight continued for, I want to say, like 10 minutes in this game, just reservists throwing wet noodles at each other for a while. But, you know, the push into this woods has cost me a fair bit. My 2A1 had to retreat back, 1390s had to retreat back. I've lost some expensive tools here, even though we have taken a little bit of ground that was probably at a bit of a loss, and the 2A5 is backing out. So we actually do see him, I think. It's one of these two. Yeah, that's you. And then this guy back here, I believe, is the Cactus, just like we saw on the left-hand side. So that's going to be a South African unit brought in by Kuma's Blue Marines. In the meantime, we had a little bit of engagements over in Delta as they are trying to pressure in there. And on the right, I'm trying to get some units around. Probably should have brought more recon infantry over here. I was kind of relying on the 1390s, which is not always the best idea. I mean, they're recon, but they only have good optics, not really anything better than that, and some recon infantry would be very hard to kill in the woods on the right, plus they'd help clear things out. So Kurtal firing in, and if we can get rid of that Tiger Hap, that'd be some nice vengeance, 100 points worth of helicopter down right there, and I'm trying to get more stuff into the woods on this side. As you can see, MintJellyMan's pinging me and saying, hey, you know, let's go in here, let's make sure we're making progress. Should be a good thing. And I mean, look at this, Lynx H7 versus it's just wet noodle fight. That's funny. So the choice for more Martyr 2s, by the way, and more 1390s was just to try and get just more armor in here than they can deal with anything other than the 2A5 that we knew was sort of back here and sort of recovering. And then over on the right-hand side, part of my reinforcements that should be coming in there in just a second will be an ATGM team. And the idea was stuff these trees full of armor and full of reservists and full of Panzergren and just make it entirely unpleasant to deal with, and then get some sort of pressure around the side to block off this reinforcing line. So this is their main funnel for reinforcements coming from Gulf, and we need to slow that down as much as humanly possible. So 2A1 down to 1 point of strength is going to be retreating back, and I'm calling in, I think, a couple of resupplies soon. I should have already had them up here. This is something I'm trying to work on just sort of to improve my own gameplay. I often only start calling in resupply when I need it, which means that I don't have it until it gets all the way up there. And this is a big problem, particularly in contentious matches where you need forces on the ground constantly, and it takes me a bit too long to get those back. So Legion 90 going a bit too far forward here. We are spotted by the Commandos Para, and that engagement will not go well for us, even though it looks like it will right now, just because there's a whole lot of other stuff in these sections of buildings, and as soon as one of them gets involved, we're going to be, of course, just very unhappy with that. And we do get a counter count from MintJellyMan, so there's a Panzerkampfwagen, a Leopard 2, and this is really just the perfect answer for the job right here. 15 frontal armor, 170 points is a little expensive, but it is resilient to some incoming fire, which, I mean, we have the risk of that right now. Corps Mariners going up from Jelly as well, getting in here, sparring with light riflemen and Commandos Para, and meanwhile, I'm trying to clear out this section of the woods, because, think about it, we have the right-hand side now. Where's their command vehicle? Because if it was in here, we think we'd see it. If it was over here, I mean, it can't be, because we would have shot it already. So it has to be back in this section of woods somewhere, and that's what my Panzergren were trying to go up to, but unfortunately, just weight of numbers is enough to take them out, particularly with nice artillery support from the Red 4 team, and that's something, like, playing against scarier players like Lateralus, it's something I've noticed happens every time. You just get stuffed by immediate mortars to, you know, wherever your infantry are pushing, and it's very, very disturbing. So we do also see a helicopter just briefly there for a second up on the right, so my Vabs are rushing up there to get to it, and then I was trying to clear out these woods, and it kind of occurred to me, you know, well, I went up here, but I didn't really skirt the edges of the woods, and visibility isn't that great, so maybe I should do that, as my new Fuchs Milan team and other sort of recon squads are getting forward and into this section here, and I don't know, I mean, by the way, wet noodle contest still ongoing. I've actually lost a squad, probably because of the helicopter support, which is no longer there, but yeah, I mean, it's been a while, and we're still just 6 men, yeah, it's goofy. It's really goofy. So, reservists fighting here, and the Audax 73 is actually not completely terrible. It's not as good as, I believe, the West German one, which is 50% accuracy, 13 AP, but 40 accuracy, 14 AP power. You can kill you can kill low armor vehicles decently well enough. At least that's the hope. In the meantime, I did lose a Vab here, but we took down a Panther, which is well worth it, and I'm just going to shoot the gap, you know, why not? Just get the Vab going forward. Check your opponent for whether or not they have more base defense and more vision around their flanks. I mean, we didn't for a while, and we really could have suffered for that, although now, I mean, Grape Jelly does have Nathra and AMX Prees here as tripwire units explicitly for that purpose, and then if they don't have the same, we'll get through. If they do have the same, then it's not really going to make that much of a difference, because I'll lose a Vab, it's 15 points, it's really just, it's an exploitation unit, that's the intention here. Meanwhile, Corps Mariners trying to capitalize over on this side, but SAS, Commander Marine, and a K1, just a whole brutal mix of Blue Marines nonsense over there in Delta, and they are going to be retreating back. So just like, I mean, my Legion 90 were able to retreat back as well. We still do have both groups, and with the Muncot 1 from Grape Jelly, we should be able to resupply them. So really, not too much in losses there, and actually, if the Corps Mariners can deal with a single squad of SAS, that, I believe, is 30-35 points. It looks like they will maybe get away, but, I mean, mortars are pounding in there from our side as well, so it takes... There are two teams that can both do that here. So, Commandos Para, isolated kill by Legion 90, very nice kill for us. It denies the scouting, which had previously been spotting my Martyr 2s, by the way. That's kind of why I knew there was something over there. And now that's gone, we are drawing some fire, but that should hopefully allow the Milan teams to move up. My Legion 90 should be able to get out of the way of those mortars, and we're just cranking the pressure higher and higher and higher on this side of Alpha as we actually get it for a second. So that's up to a +3. and I think it was just a reposition, but that should potentially also tell you maybe it was here because there's fire, maybe it was here because there's fire. Fire will force any unit, whether it's infantry or a tank or anything like that, to move out of the burn. So if you ever see that where a zone blips right after you start a fire somewhere, odds are you were pretty close. Now, on this side, the VAB is moving up, and we spot 2 Panthers from Kuma. I believe they were carrying, I don't know, I'm not really sure, probably Commando Marine. And that's very expensive infantry as well. So we kill one, down it goes. Commando Marine will be hitting the ground there instead of getting to their intended target. We almost get a second one too, just not quite able to stay in range. And that is going to be a very quick response for the Red 4 team as Lateralus calls out a couple things on the ground. And those VABs, I mean, yeah, we get a kill. It's actually pretty worthwhile VAB, to be honest. 2 kills on the ground, Panther in the air, and the infantry and the Panther going down. And we do lose it, but yeah, I was happy. It was a nice little exploitation there moment. So Pentagram 90, more Martyrs and VTTs going up here, and I had a little bit of a, yeah, well, my brain did a funny, as they say, and I for some reason thought to myself, well, this section of forest is still in the zone. It's not. There's the border, there's the trees. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I was thinking. I think it was just, I don't know, the mortar fire, trying to get stuff over here on the right, and then a little worried about the Cobra as well. So unfortunately, instead of just going right up here like I should have, I am going to take a little bit of a detour, particularly with the Martyrs, as the mortar fire gets more accurate, and we'll see the consequences of this in just a second. Meanwhile, Roland 3, spotted here, West German one, by the way, the one that I had recently asked some questions about, is this actually worth it? And it turns out we're going to see why in action here, as we're trying to mortar it. MintJellyMan has some mortars going on. I should have some mortars hitting it pretty soon as well, and, well, we did 2 points of damage, and then we lost vision, so it's a little hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure that Roland 3 does survive, which, I mean, hey, that's sort of the advertising for the additional top armor right there. So, Legion 90 are handling a bit of a reservist rush from Lateralus. I think they were just trying to do anything that they could to push us out of Delta, and, I mean, if you're losing the flank on this side, and you have a fair amount of stuff here, which they clearly did, then pushing through on our left, their right, is a viable alternative as well. So, Commandos Para, 1390 is doing very well here against Light Riflemen, which might surprise you considering the range in the Dragon, but I think we were either just out of range or, yeah, they're spotted, they're not hidden, so not really sure what was up. I actually did take some damage on one of them, so it could be that they just didn't have time to do a second reload, but we're able to take them out, and, I mean, the value of units like this in spots like that, it's been drilled into me recently, and it's really amazing. I highly recommend it. So, Fighting Falcon trying to support the Gurkhas here, and my poor Legion are going to be taking that one right on the chin. So, yeah, gigantic explosion. And we do lose this position, so losing that was a little worrying. There's Roland 3s right here. There's double 2A5 right here from Grape Jelly, who's been using it to fight pretty effectively behind this zone and sort of scaring them off of Charlie, the same as I'm doing over here on the right. And, you know, enemy shock troops, enemy Gurkhas, that's not something these guys want to fight head on. You can see right now there's one of them lost immediately to those Gurkhas when they get to the Law 80 online. It's a really, really impactful weapon, 20 rounds a minute, 22 AP power. The AP power could be better. You have 23 and 24 with some other options for other factions, but still, I mean, the rate of fire is very high, the AP is just high enough. My Commandos Para, by the way, able to kill a couple of units in the open here, and then we're pushing forward, trying to decap Alpha with everything I've got. And I know I'm breaking the cardinal rule of shock infantry. Yeah, the Roland 3 is still alive. Look at that. I'm breaking the cardinal rule of shock infantry by using them intentionally for combat, potentially, but I wanted the recon forward. We really needed to find their CV here just to put the final nail in that coffin of Alpha and start to move past it. So, we've cleared this section, we've cleared here, there really aren't too many other places, and the Commandos Para will be able to spot, yeah, I mean, they're on 1 strength, look at that. Oh, there's the Captain Alpha, that's going to take us up to a +3, and at this point I think we had a GG from our opponents in the first match of the Adopt a Noob Tourney, at least the first one that I was in. This is still first round, so I think there are something like 8 or 9 other teams, maybe a couple more, teams of 2. With 1 experienced player and then 1 newer player, and I'm, of course, the newer player compared to the Major General MintJellyMan here, who was just an absolute pleasure to play with. He's been giving some really good feedback and improving my game, I think, quite a lot here over the last couple of weeks, so I really appreciate it. Shout out to him, shout out to Lateralus and Kuma for the sportsmanship, and we should have the second game up either tomorrow or real soon after that, because I mean, they were both pretty fun games, and some nice gameplay there. So 30-45 kills, 23-40 losses. Pretty tilted in our favor there, and I think a lot of that was the air tab, particularly out of Kuma, But honestly, he went positive. He did some very nice fighting. I lost a fair number of units to him as well, and I think it was a really hard fought match. So Kratal was pretty nice at the beginning. I only wish we'd been able to get a bit more. And the exploitation from the 10 RC, I mean, that I think was a huge turning point in the game, because before then we had a lot of pressure on the right-hand side. After then we still had a lot of pressure on the right-hand side of the map. But this is, I mean, that's about 140 points right there, plus the attention, right? So they had to bring the other Panthers over. They had to buy, so not only is this many points in kills, they had to rebuy a command vehicle for their own home zone, and we turned off their planes for a little bit. So that was a huge turning point. And then other highlight units are going to be, Kratal killing, Panther with CV infantry. You hate to see that. And I think the Panzergren did very well here as well. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.